Hi there. Today I'm going to talk to you about how do I turn a client around that's not going to buy. So we have the situation. I've made an offer, the client has the offer, he's even had maybe time enough to think about it. It's not a simple thing. It's not like just buying a bunch of bananas. Yeah, the bananas can be rotten as well, okay, but that's not going to be so painful. It's annoying, but it's not painful. But if I'm spending a lot of money, whether it's 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 or even more, then I think twice. That's the human nature to think, because you value what are the risks. The higher the money they're spending, the higher the risk I perceive. So you have to find out what are the risks the person is perceiving. Make him to understand what influences the risks. Because of course in every deal there are risks. Let's say you buy from a coach a coaching, and then you suddenly notice you don't like the coach, or you don't understand, or the coach doesn't understand you, or maybe you just don't like his advice and you're not willing to implement, but you've spent the money. That's a risk. The same thing if you, for instance, are buying a camera and then eventually you notice the programming, the settings, you don't like them because it's too complicated, or maybe it doesn't have the high resolution you want, or maybe you don't like holding it, it's just too heavy. It's just too heavy. And I know there's some photographers, some good friends of mine, like for instance Gabo, he likes the same kind of cameras that I have, the same kind of brands, but there are some other photographers that we both know, and they have some lighter cameras. There's advantage on cameras, and there's a disadvantage as well on cameras, depending. There are cameras with lens and with special technology inside, and some have a simpler technology. Some are more the classic kind of lens technology and so on. So that makes it difficult to decide. And for my buyer, if he wants to make a decision and to overcome the risks that they're like flying around his head and thinking, oh God, they're going to happen, because he thinks, yeah, I spend the money and it'll happen. The risk will happen, they will bomb. But of course not, they will not. Okay, maybe 1% will go boom, the way we don't want it. But come on, how high are your chances? Go and buy a lottery ticket. Most of the people don't win a lottery. The chances are so small. So you have to get them to understand their realistic risks, and as well to get the right perception of what to expect. Because in many cases people have a perception of what they're going to get in a total unrealistic level. Let's say, as an example, you buy a new car and you expect to be able to drive this car for all the time without going to the service. Wait a minute. Many brands, many cars need servicing, and it's even if it's just changing your winter tires, or maybe filling up the liquid for your screen, your windscreen wipers. Hey, you need to service. Some things you can do yourself as well, of course. If you're a handy person, then it's good. If you have a good friend who has good talent in mechanics, and he can do that. He can even change your battery or so maybe. But hey, a car needs servicing. And the same thing with, for instance, a house. Someday you'll have to put new roof tiles on. That's the thing. Sometimes something gets broken, you get a leakage. You have to fix the bathroom, the toilet and so on. So everything in life needs servicing. Even we as humans need servicing. We need to do sports, we have to eat healthy. If we don't eat healthy, we become overweight, we have problems, we have to get operations, we need maybe some other kind of stuff, we have pains and everything. And even sometimes things happen, even although we've been quite healthy and good, we've seen that we don't drink too much soda. I like Canada Dry, so I have to moderate myself there as well. So maybe you drink more water, you drink maybe some juice and things. You can even choose to mix juice with water and so on. So you can do all different things. But my expectations have to be realistic and what I can realistically do with what I'm going to buy. So if I buy a plane, eventually at a certain point I have to refill the tank. Of course a plane cannot fly around the world all the time without refueling. And even if it's an electric plane, I have to recharge it. And maybe it's a plane that can only fly during the day while the sun is shining on the solar systems, then I have to fly during the day. And if it comes night, I have to land and wait for the next day. So every kind of object has some risks, some things that I have to take in consideration and have to do them. So when I'm selling something, I have to make the buyer understand what the product is and why certain things can happen, but as well when they can happen. For instance, I buy a car, a tire might burst. Hey, I've had training in the automotive industry. I've driven cars, I've rented cars, I've driven long stretches, high speeds and so on, extremely high speeds. I think the fastest I've driven was like 260 kilometers per hour. That's extremely fast. I have never had a ruptured or burst tire. I've had a splinter on my screen, yes, and I have had to change the entire front screen. But I've never had a burst screen, and somebody else might have had a burst tire, but never a stone or a scratch in their screen. The risks are so slow and so small that we have to make the buyer understand what can really happen and what might happen, but it's really, really unusual. And then he understands, hey, it's not everything flying around, it's going to kill me, or it's going to burst and so on. So it's just something small. It's like a fly flying around. The fly won't kill me, unless of course it's infected with malaria and all that kind of stuff. But realistically, hey, there's difference between a fly and a big mountain coming on top of you. So realistic. And once the client or the buyer, the customer understands what is reality, then he calms down and thinks, oh, then it's actually not that bad as I had expected. I thought it wouldn't work. Come on, it's not so bad. Hey, just have to put a little effort. The same thing, you want to learn how to do sales, how to close and so on. Hey, wait a minute. You don't have to go around half naked in the city and try to sell everybody a pair of bathing trunks. No, and in winter it's even insane. It's so cold, you get a cold and you'll be sick and in hospital. No. Use your brain and then use your mouth and get the stuff sold and closed. But without exercising, without trying to close people, without contacting somebody, without exercising, trying it out and learning new stuff, and as well testing stuff out, trying stuff out, you'll never know what works and what doesn't work, because every buyer is different. Every buyer has a different issue. Every buyer has a different personality. And there are four different kinds of main personalities that we say on how they buy and sell and so on. And again as well, they have different kinds of key values. So you have to literally press the right buttons at that kind of individual to actually get it. And it's not about manipulating somebody's brain, because if you try to manipulate me and now I buy and I leave your shop and then afterwards notice, wait a minute, that's not what I wanted to buy. I have no use for it. I don't need let's say a bagger. I don't need a big trench system or even a train, because I don't have any tracks. Why do I need to buy a train, an entire train? Where should it run it? It's crazy. So why should I buy a train? Or the same thing. Why should I buy a battleship if I don't have a war to fight? I don't need a battleship. Where should I even put it? Here in the local lake, it wouldn't even fit in there. So I don't need this kind of stuff. I want maybe to have a nice camera. I might want to have a nice flight or a nice holiday or a nice house or good property to buy, to let, to sell to other people. Or maybe I want to have some good business partners. Or I maybe want to be on a magazine or anything. Just imagine, I put you on a magazine, you'll be seen by many people. Hey, why don't I want to do this? It might make it easier for me to sell my product because I have a greater credibility. So once you have turned your client away from thinking that the world will collapse in one moment, then you have to just work on building the additional necessary trust that he will buy your product. He will buy it, and you will ensure that he will buy it because you will close him. And it is possible. I've done it multiple times. I've done it on phone, on Zoom calls, on Skype. I've done it in person. And it is absolutely possible. Even in email you can do it. Yes, okay, email is more typing and it's more time consuming. But let's say you invest in a phone conversation, half an hour. You can turn a non-buying client into a buying client. Nevertheless, there's one hatch or one issue you need to keep in mind. If this potential lead is not for you, the right buyer, don't close him or her, because you will otherwise have problems. And we don't want to have problems in the sales or delivery process and payment process. So that's the thing. Selling is one thing, but it is finding the right leads, convincing them to have a realistic understanding of what you can deliver, what are the terms, and as well to see that you are comfortable to do business with this person. So, selling, closing, pitching, or whatever you want to call it, it comes to one thing. Find the right lead, find the right points that are important for this person, and close him. That's all. It's not so complicated actually, but many people do it overcomplicated. They say you have to build so many touch points. Wait a minute. Yes, you of course have to build touch points. The average touch points are 7 to 21 touch points to do a close. But touch points can be different kinds of touch points. And I'm going to talk about these kind of touch points in my next video. I'm going to provide you an insight on these things. See you soon.